What is up, everybody, and welcome back to JohnnyKpicks. And in this video, I'll be going over my full card, picks and predictions, along with my bets so far that I have for UFC Vegas 61, Dern versus Jan. As always, please hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel or if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button, and if you want to, click that little bell so you get notifications so you don't miss out on any of my new videos or live streams. Okay, so UFC Vegas 60 seemed like forever ago, but I ended up going 6 and 7 on those picks, and I ended up losing minus 2.18 units overall. But yeah, I took some chances on a couple underdogs, and they ended up not winning, obviously. And there was a couple different fights that were kind of weird, like the Zellhuber performance. I know he's better than that. And one of the fights was Giles and Costa went to decision. And I did not think that would go to decision one bit. So those are my little blunders from my bets. And like I said, I only ended up losing like minus 2 units, so it wasn't too bad. But it just seems like I'm just stuck in that plus 30, plus 40 unit range for the year so far. And I just can't get anything more than plus 40 or 35 or something like that. So I'm going to try to do a couple different things with my betting. I'm going to try to do more straight bets, maybe do a little bit more prop bets as well, and less parlays, I think, for a while until I start feeling good or if I'm on a hot streak. So we'll see what happens this week. I got a couple bets lined up, like I said, at the end of the video, so we'll get to those in a little bit. But yeah, let's not waste any more time here, and let's get to my picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 61. First fight we have is Jessica Penne versus Tabitha Ricci. Penne is 14 and 6, 39 years old, 5'5", with a 67-inch reach. And Ricci is 7 and 1, 27 years old, 5'1", with a 62-inch reach. Okay, so to start the night out, we have a pretty decent women's MMA fight here. Both fighters are really good grapplers. They got decent striking, but Penne's going to be the bigger fighter here with a 4-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. But Tabitha Ricci is very quick on her feet. She's got good striking, like I said, and good grappling and wrestling. This is going to be a pretty good fight. It just depends on where this fight goes. If it's going to be on the feet, it's going to be pretty close. Penne does keep her range well, and she does have good striking too, but Ricci's going to be a little bit quicker. She got good combos too, but on the mat, I'm going to give Ricci the advantage with her wrestling and grappling. I know Penne does have good grappling herself, but I just like the grappling from Ricci a little bit more, so I'm going to go with Ricci here. I think she can use her wrestling and take down Penne because Penne's takedown defense isn't all that great, and I do think Ricci will be able to take her down pretty much whenever she wants and just stay on top and work some ground and pound and maybe go for submissions. So with my pick here, I'm going to go with Ricci to win this one by a decision. Next fight we have is Alexei Oleinik versus Ilir Latifi. Oleinik is 60, 16 and 1, 45 years old, 6'2", with an 80-inch reach, and Latifi is 15 and 8, 39 years old, 5'10", with a 75-inch reach. Okay, here we go. This is my fight of the night, and these guys were supposed to fight a couple different times, and finally they're coming back, and they're finally going to fight each other this time, hopefully. I know one of the times it was at UFC Columbus, and I was there, and they weighed in the ceremonial weigh-ins, but I think the day of, Latifi withdrew for an illness maybe, and they didn't end up fighting. So I already broke this fight down maybe at least once, so I'm going to stick with my original pick here, but Latifi's a good wrestler. He's got okay striking, if you want to say. He's very, very, very low volume. He just wants to take down his opponent and wrestle and stay on top with some ground and pound. And with Oleinik, very good grappler, amazing submissions. On the feet, he's not that great either, but I would give him the edge in the striking. Actually, he can crack at times, even though he's a little bit unorthodox. He's not very technical, but then again, like I said, Latifi's not very technical either, and he's very low volume. So this, to me, depends on if Latifi is going to be able to take down Oleinik and stay on top and be safe, or is Oleinik going to be able to wrap up a submission? And I'm going to go with the more dangerous fighter here, which I believe is Oleinik. I know he's 45 years old, but I just don't see why Latifi's as big of a favorite as he is right now. Oleinik is the more dangerous fighter, and I do believe the only way Latifi will win this fight is if he wins by decision and just lays on top of Oleinik, which will put him in a bad situation. So yeah, with my pick, I'm going to go with Oleinik, and I think he's going to be able to get the submission. Moving on up the card, we have Maxim Grishin versus Felipe Lins. Grishin is 32, 9 and 2, 38 years old, 6'3", with a 76-inch reach, and Lins is 15 and 5, 37 years old, 6'2", with a 78-inch reach. All right, so this is going to be a pretty interesting fight here. Grishin's a pretty good striker, and he does have decent power. He does keep his range very well, and he has pretty solid takedown defense. And with Linz, he's mainly a striker too with good power in his hands, but he does have good grappling and wrestling if he uses it. But if he does use it, he tends to fade a little bit quicker than he usually does. And that's one of the red flags for Linz as well, is he just seems like he only has 1, maybe 2 rounds of cardio, and then he's like completely gassed. But this is a pretty tough fight to predict here. Both guys are dangerous early, more so on the Lin side. But if Grishin can survive the first round and not take too much damage, I do like Grishin to win this one. I think his striking is better. Lin's is pretty hittable at times when he's on his feet. And with the good takedown defense that Grishin has, I think he'll be able to stuff the takedowns that Linz tries maybe. And like I said, if this is going to be a striker versus striker match, I like Grishin here all day. So with my pick, I'm going to say Grishin wins this one. And I don't see a finish one way or another, so I'm going to say by decision. Next fight we have is Joaquim Silva versus Jesse Ronson. Silva is 11-3, 33 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. And Ronson is 21-11, 36 years old, 5'10", with a 70.5-inch reach. All right, so this is another tough fight to predict here. Silva does have good grappling, and he's a pretty decent striker with good power, but as good as his grappling is, he doesn't really go for takedowns, which that drives me insane when fighters do that. And with Ronson, he's a solid striker as well, and he does have decent grappling too, but I will give Silva the edge in the grappling department. And on the feet, it's pretty close too, but I'm going to also give Silva the edge here. He does have good power in his hands. But for my pick here, I'm going to roll the dice, and I'm going to go with Silva here. I just think he's the more dangerous fighter. I think on the feet, he's going to be live for the KO with his power. And if this fight does go on the mat, we did see Ronson pretty much get dominated in the grappling department by Rafa Garcia. So I think Silva is a better grappler than Garcia. So if that happens, I like Silva as well. So with my pick here, I'm going to go with Silva winning, and I'm going to say he does get that knockout on the feet, so by knockout. Next fight we have is Julia Stoliarenko versus Chelsea Chandler. Stoliarenko is 10-6-1, 29 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach. And Chandler is 4-1, 28 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. All right, so for Stoliarenko, she is basically an armbar or bust fighter for me, but she does have okay striking. She's very tough, and she's got really good submissions when she's off her back, obviously. And that's really about it. And for Chandler, she's making her UFC debut, but she's a pretty well-rounded fighter. She's got good striking, decent power in her hands as well, and she does have good takedowns and wrestling, but I think she's going to want to keep this fight on the feet. So for my pick, though, I'm going to go with Chandler to win this one. I'm just not super impressed with Stoliarenko, and I know she won her last fight against Jessica Rose Clark, but she hasn't looked that good either, so that doesn't really have me running the bet Stoliarenko by any means, but I'm going to roll the dice and say Chandler wins this one, and I think she's going to win by a decision. Moving on up the card, we have Brendan Allen versus Krzysztof Jotko. Allen is 19-5, 26 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach, and Jotko is 24-5, 33 years old, 6'1", with a 77-inch reach. All right, so I'm actually excited for this fight, and Allen is a very good grappler. He's got pretty decent takedowns, and his striking is okay, but the red flag for me is his fight IQ is very suspect. I bet him a few times at like minus 300 range when he was a big favorite, and I was sweating every bet I did. And for Jotko, he's a very solid fighter. He's got very technical striking and boxing. He's got good takedown defense. He does have some wrestling and grappling in his back pocket if he wants to use it, but I think he's going to want to stay on the feet for this one. And yeah, I really like Jotko to win this one. I like the matchup right here too. I'm just not super impressed with Allen. Like I said, his fight IQ is iffy at best, and his striking, for some reason, it seems like he fell in love with it. He doesn't really grapple as much. And for me, if Jotko can stuff the takedowns and keep this fight on the feet, I think he's going to have a massive advantage here. So with my pick, I'm going to say Jotko wins this one, and I'm going to say by decision. Next fight we have is Randy Costa versus Guido Cannetti. Costa is 6-3, 28 years old, 5'9", with a 73-inch reach. And Cannetti is 9-6, 42 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. Okay, so Costa is a very good striker. He's got very good boxing and power in his hands. He's got pretty decent kicks. But the thing about him, though, is he has about 1.5 rounds of cardio, and then he just seems to fall off a cliff and not do too much after that. And with Cannetti, I know he's getting up there in age, but he's a pretty solid fighter. He's got okay striking. He's got good wrestling and grappling too. And I was kind of going back and forth with this one, but I'm going to go with the more dangerous fighter, which I do believe is Costa. I know it's a big risk because if he doesn't get Cannetti out of there in the first round or maybe early second round, I'm going to pretty much say Cannetti has a great chance of winning. But what I kept going back to was Cannetti is 42 years old and Costa will have a pretty good size advantage of 3 inches in height and then 5 inches in reach. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Costa to win this one, and I think he'll get the knockout in the first round. Next fight we have is Mike Davis versus Vyacheslav Borshchev. Davis is 9-2, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 72.5-inch reach. And Slava Claus is 6-2, 30 years old, 5'11 with a 69-inch reach. Okay, so Davis is a pretty well-rounded fighter. He's got good striking, he's got power in his hands, he throws pretty good combos, and he also does have good wrestling and grappling. And with Borshchev, he's a very good striker, very technical. He's got good kicks. He goes at the body a lot with his punches. And I will say he's the more technical striker of the two, but Borshchev is taking this fight on short notice, and also his takedown defense is awful at 37%. But I'm going to go with Davis here. Like I said, I do think he's the more well-rounded fighter. I think he'll be able to use his wrestling and take down Borshchev whenever he's in trouble on the feet, or if he just wants to go to a wrestling game plan. I think he'll be able to tire out Borshchev as the fight goes on, because if he keeps this fight standing, I think he's going to have a hard time with Borshchev. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Davis wins this one, and he's going to win by a decision. Next fight we have is Sadiq Yusuff versus Don Shainis. Yusuff is 12-2, 29 years old, 5'9 with a 71-inch reach. And Shainis is 12-3, 31 years old, 5'6 with a 66.5-inch reach. Okay, so Shainis has taken this fight on short notice and making his UFC debut, but he's a pretty well-rounded fighter. He's got good striking and wrestling, but let's be honest here. Yusuff is a really good fighter. He's got very good striking. He's very technical. He doesn't really use his wrestling, but he does have pretty decent wrestling. But I think Yusuff is going to win this one. I just don't see how Shainis on short notice is going to come in here and shock the world. So this is going to be a short breakdown. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Yusuff to win. And I'm going to say he wins by decision because Shainis is pretty tough. And I think he'll be able to hang in there. Next fight we have is Johnny Barcelos versus Trevin Jones. Barcelos is 16-3, 35 years old, 5'7 with a 67-inch reach. And Jones is 13-8, 32 years old, 5'7 with a 70-inch reach. All right, so this is going to be a pretty fun fight. So Barcelos is a well-rounded fighter. He's got good striking. He's very good technical boxing. He's got good low kicks. He's got good grappling and wrestling if he wants to use that as well. The only problem with him is he can be hittable at times. And in his last fight against Victor Henry, it was a little worrisome to see him lose that way. But maybe it was an off night for him, or maybe Victor Henry was better than I thought. And with Jones, he's a very good striker. He's got really good power in his hands. He does have good grappling, but we haven't seen it too much in the UFC. He just mainly likes to be a striker. And I kind of went back and forth with this one a little bit, but I'm going to go with the more well-rounded fighter in Barcelos. I think he's going to be too much for Jones on the feet. And if he does go for takedowns and he gets Jones to the mat, I do think he'll be able to work his grappling and just win control time. But I will say, though, Jones does have that one-punch knockout power, and that will scare me for this fight because he can end it in any rounds. But with my pick, I'm going to go with Barcelos to win, and I'm going to say by decision. Next fight we have is John Castaneda versus Daniel Santos. Castaneda is 19-5, 30 years old, 5'6 with a 69-inch reach. And Santos is 9-2, 27 years old, 5'7 with a 67-inch reach. Okay, so Castaneda is a pretty solid striker. He has good pressure and good pace. And also he does have good wrestling and takedowns. And with Santos, he's a very good striker. He's very dangerous on the feet as well, but he does have good grappling, but he can be hittable at times too. and he can be taken down pretty easily. But yeah, I really like Castaneda in this matchup. I think his pressure and pace is going to be a little too much for Santos, and I do think Santos will be worried about those takedowns pretty much the whole fight because, like I said, Castaneda is pretty well rounded, and he does use his striking to set up his takedowns. And if this fight does go to the mat, he'll be able to stay on top of Santos and just be safe from Santos's submissions off his back. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Castaneda wins this one by decision, and Castaneda is actually one of my most confident picks of the night. All right, co-main event time here. We have Randy Brown versus Francisco Trinaldo. Brown is 15-4, 32 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach, and Trinaldo is 28-8, 44 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach. All right, so here's another interesting fight that I'm actually looking forward to see. But Brown is a very technical striker with pretty solid grappling and submissions. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there early, but he's going to have the 6-inch height advantage and the 8-inch reach advantage in this fight. And with Trinaldo, I know he's going to be the older fighter at 44, but he's still trucking along and he's tough as hell. He's got really good power in his hands. He's not the most technical striker, but he does like to push forward. And he does have good wrestling when he uses it, but we haven't really seen it too much lately. And as much as I would like to pick Trinaldo here, I gotta go with Brown here. I think the size advantage is gonna play a big part in this fight, and he'll be able to stay at range and kick Trinaldo and just maybe jab him up. And if Trinaldo tries to use his wrestling, I think Brown will be able to work his way back up to his feet and just continue to outstrike Trinaldo for 3 rounds. So I don't see a finish by any means unless it's maybe like a rear naked choke in a weird position for Brown. So with my pick, I'm going to say Brown wins this one by a decision. All right, main event time here. We have Mackenzie Dern versus Jan. Dern is 12-2, 29 years old, 5'4", with a 63-inch reach, and Jan is 15-3, 33 years old, 5'5", with a 63-inch reach. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty fun fight to watch. But as everybody knows, Dern is probably one of the best UFC grapplers. And with her striking, she has been improving every fight. But I will say the one issue that hasn't really seen a lot of improvements is her takedown accuracy. She just can't get a takedown to save her life. And she just relies a little too much on like random events happening so she can get on top. But she does only need that one time to get that submission when she's on top. And with Jan, she's a great striker, pretty good power in her hands, and she does like to push forward. But I will say her weakness is her ground game. And because of that, I gotta go with Dern here. Since this is a 5-round fight, I gotta say that Dern's probably gonna have one chance at least to get this fight to the mat. And when she does, I do see a submission shortly after that. But if not, if this fight does stay on the feet for all 5 rounds, then Jan has a very good chance for the upset here. But like I said, Dern is just too dangerous on the mat, and Jan doesn't really have a great ground game. So with my pick, I'm going to say Dern wins this one by a submission. All right, guys, those are my picks and predictions. So let's jump right into my bets that I have so far for UFC Vegas 61. The first bet I have is a 2-fighter parlay. I bet 1.25 units on Castaneda and Ricci to win, and I got that at plus 117. So with Castaneda, I just think he's the more well-rounded fighter in the matchup. I think he'll be able to get the takedowns that he needs. And on the feet, I do favor him as well. He's got good combinations, and he uses his striking to set up his wrestling and takedowns. So I just think he's going to be too much for Santos, and especially in the later rounds. And with Ricci, again, I think she's going to be the better wrestler. The grappling is going to probably be the same, but I think she'll be able to get down Penne whenever she tries to go for the takedowns. But on the feet, it might be a little bit close because Penne will have that reach advantage. So Ricci's going to have to be able to use her speed and set up those takedowns, which I think she'll be able to. And the last bet I have for right now is a straight bet. I bet 1.5 units on Jotko to win, and I got that at minus 120. So like I said earlier, I really like Jotko in this matchup. He's going to be the better striker. He's going to be more technical on the feet. He's got good takedown defense if Allen tries to go for takedowns. And Allen's fight IQ isn't the greatest. So if Jotko can just stuff the takedowns early and keep this fight on the feet and make Allen a striker, I think he'll be able to outstrike Allen, maybe even get a knockout, but I'm going to say he's going to win by decision. All right, so there you have it. Picks, predictions, bets so far for UFC Vegas 61. Thank you everybody for watching, and on your way out, please hit that like button for me. Also, be sure to check back on this video in the comment section for any added bets throughout the week, or you can check my Instagram where I post all my bet slips. I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend, and until next time, happy fight night.